Now, okay. Hi, Conor. Conor Curley, you're the guitarist in FONTAINES D.C. Hi, thank you for the interview. Okay, you're in London at the moment. So, okay, you the whole band is now based in London. I understand, more than in Dublin.
Yeah,
you moved from Dublin.
yeah, all of us are in London now. Yeah. One of us moved here. Our singer moved here, probably like close to 2 years ago, and then when it came to like writing new material, it just kind of made sense that we all sort of gravitated to here. And I think it was good because we all lived in Dublin for a very long time. We lived there for maybe 6-7 years. So yeah, it was good. It was good to change.
Yeah, we hear you talk explicitly about this. You know, skinny. Yeah, how do you pronounce this? Skintifia, Skitifia?
Yeah. No, the first one, Skintifia.
Skintifia. Okay. Okay. It's you. As a band, you always tend to stress your Irishness. So this is an Irish expression, I understand. Can you explain why you titled the LP like it's like what does it mean? God damn or something like that?
It means so from the Irish language, it's a literal translation into English is the damnation of the deer, and it's referring to there used to be a giant red deer in Ireland, but it became extinct maybe like I don't know, like almost 1,000 years ago. So it's in reference to that, the damnation of the deer, the extinction of that certain species. But it was used by people as a sort of like you drop something and say skinty fia, sort of like fuck's sake kind of thing.
Okay, your first album, Dog Grail, was like very much about the lyrics were very much about Dublin. It was the claustrophoby of Dublin, the gentrification of Dublin. There was a frustration of people living in Dublin to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. The second album was like your American album, because you went on a world tour, so it took stock of what happened to you in Los Angeles and in America. I've read this album, the Skintifia, is like about the feeling of Irishness, because the feeling what you felt living as Irishman in London. Can you expand on that? Because I read an interview with your singer. He said that there is a lot of discrimination about against because the Irish people in London. I wasn't aware of that.
I suppose because of the close proximity, Irish people have been coming over to England to work for almost hundreds of years now, and in the past. Irish communities always sort of kind of banded together, like in a lot of places where immigrants go to work. They sort of band together and create a community close to Irishness in a foreign place. And obviously, in modern times, it's us being English speakers that isn't as much the case. But I think. What Graham was referring to is sometimes there's just an underlying tone of ignorance to the relationship between England and Ireland, and these things kind of come out, and it's generally just down to what people are taught over here in schools. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The history books would never really refer to maybe a lot of the wrongdoings that English people have done against Irish people, and whenever you say this to people, they would just say, "Oh, we never knew," So that's the sort of feelings that you come across over here, and I suppose our reaction would always be, you know, this is wrong. You know, people should know about this. You know, because if it doesn't happen in this generation, you know, these are the type of things that lose, you know, lose traction, and then in years' time, things will just be that ignorance will just still exist if it's not, you know, asked to be corrected.
It's not like it was once, you know, no Irish, no dogs. It's not.
Yeah.
Is it still happening?
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not as blatant as that. No, it's just as I said. Like, you know, it's just kind of an underlying. It's just uneducated. It's just you know, because there's certain things between Ireland and England. You know, certain atrocities from the Troubles and stuff like that have never really been addressed by the English government, and a sort of sweeping under the rug that, you know, it's you can be fine with that, but I think it's easier to be fine with that when you live in Ireland, you know, and you just know that they're doing it over here. But when you have to live amongst it, it's a lot harder to kind of deal with.
Yeah. Let's talk about musically. It's very different albums. I mean, all the three albums by Fontaines D.C. are all different, one to the other. The first was very punky, very much influenced possibly by The Fall, by Wire, like that kind of post-punk music. The second was already different. It had a lot of you know, melodies and maybe the Beach Boys influence, the influence of your tour in America. This one is still different. It's got a lot of atmosphere in it. And can I ask you something? Because there were some atmospheres which I could relate to early U2.
Okay.
Yeah. Was it, you know, and the question is, because you never I've never really read about this. I mean, were you influenced by great Irish bands of the past, also like U2, like, I don't know, Boomtown Rats in your music?
Yeah, definitely. We all kind of bring, I suppose, the way I'd answer that is we all kind of bring our own influences. I myself, I couldn't say that I'm a massive U2 fan, or at least I'm not yet. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of think that about bands now. It's like, it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I haven't. Like someone like as undeniable as U2, like they're obviously amazing. It's just that music hasn't really connected with me yet, but I think it will. But you know, obviously, like a lot of the lads in the band are huge fans of U2, you know, so there's definitely maybe some of those influences being brought in and then mixed to other things. You know, I think with this, I think like another interesting thing to look at is like, who are U2, like say if you're talking about like early U2, it's like, who are they being inspired by then? You know what I mean? Like, which is like probably like the more classic post-punk bands, probably like Joy Division and stuff like that. And that would be something maybe that, you know, if you look at it through the lens of that, if you two got inspired by that band and ended up making that music, then maybe we got inspired by that band and like at the same level, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, like for me, a lot of the sounds, I was very into Primal Scream. Whenever we started doing this album, and you know, songs like Skinty Fia, like maybe a lot more of the like thicker production songs, I always kind of imagined as like trying to look for sounds that are a lot like the Exterminator album by Primal Scream.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you pointed out the, you know, the evolution of the band. Yeah, maybe having a more you know, a more atmosphere, you know, delving more into atmospheres and stuff, because of course U2 became one of the big after the third album, U2 became one of the biggest bands in the world. And you also been, you know, in some quarters you also been publicized as you know, a band likely to to succeed very strongly. Does it? Are you afraid of this? Does it put pressure on you? Did it put pressure on you making this LP?
To be honest, no. And it kind of it's a funny coincidence, really. I think the time and place of it being during a lockdown, you know, when we wrote this album, really took the pressure off, you know, because it seemed to sort of close off the idea of a wider audience, and it was way easier to kind of really contain ourselves in between the five of us and the music that the five of us wanted to make, and this being the third one as well, you know, the third time at it, I think that was the thing that we were looking for every time that we were writing. We didn't want to be affected by the audience that were gonna listen to the music. I think it was like a great fear that we had before it was even going to happen, that, like, you know, if someone liked something that we did, that we would then lean into whatever that is and, like, you know, start producing music for the audience instead of producing music that helps like producing music that satisfies us as musicians, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the hardest thing to do as a young band. And once you can kind of tap into that, then you're free, you know what I mean? If you have an audience that encourages you to fulfill yourself fulfill your own needs as a musician, then you're laughing, you know, you're winning the game then, like, you know.
Yeah, of course, of course. FONTAINES D.C, the band is like at the forefront of a new wave of bands, of young bands who use guitars again. You know, the last decade has not been very kind to guitar-based bands. Now it seems it's all changed around. There is a whole scene of bands. There's you, there's Shame, there's Idols, Murder Capital. There's plenty of bands like, you know, guitar-based to go to _1 in the charts, like the Lathams, or you know, Don Broco was #1 last week, for instance. What do you think is that? What do you think that's changed around? Because the quality of this new wave of bands, or it's just that people couldn't, you know, it had to come back at some time.
Yeah.
You were in sort of way lucky to be here now.
Yeah, I think that's it. You know, I think it's just down to supply and demand. I think, like, with like all the sort of the subculture genres of music, like, you know, kind of rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. If they go through a period of you know, if it takes like a couple of bands that come around and it becomes popular again, then, like, you know, you see that everyone, like, there's demand for it, so then there's going to be more guitar music around, you know what I mean? And I think it will ride high for a while, and then it will duck down again, and then, you know, dance music and stuff like that. Sorry. Dance music and stuff like that will or like whatever the other is will come back around. I think if you look at it, it's just kind of the cyclical nature of music as it is now, the way that we have charts and the way we have all these things. It's just down to supply and demand. And we are fortunate now that there is a lot of really good bands coming up. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll keep on, like, writing albums through whatever sort of trends, and it is nice now that it's being spotlighted. But I think fundamentally and ultimately, as long as you're making good music, then, you know, you're going to get your say, you know.
Yeah, of course, but yeah, there are a lot of bands, you know, guitar-based bands. But you're of course you are different in one you know, in one not different way. You're a literary band. You know, you're kind of very it's a punky rock and roll band, very powerful. At the same time, your lyrics are you know, they're important to you because they're literary. They come from, you know, a well of knowledge, knowing your poetry, you know, Irish poetry in particular. and it's like the same thing that Morrissey used to say. You have Keats and Yeats, but I have Oscar Wilde or something like that on my side. So you're quite unique in this respect, or aren't you? I mean, you're the only ones who are doing this kind of, literary approach to lyrics and referring to the Irish tradition in literature. How important is that to you?
Oh yeah, I mean,
It's a complex question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it is very important. It's a kind of thing that, like, it still is very important. It's a thing that is kind of like, it is an important thing about our band, but I hope that, it doesn't. It's definitely been a huge part of our sort of branding, to the world as this literary thing, and it is important. I mean, like, we do read, and like it is like we always want to be able to reference things in our music that aren't just musical influences, because I think that's how you really sort of start to create a lot of layers in your music, and I think bands like Sonic Youth Sonic Youth were amazing for their referencing in their music. It made it so dense, and it matched the music that they were making. The music that they were making was so dense and sort of dissonant. Mm-hmm. So I think it's an important thing, but I just hope that people will always see us as a music band, and like we're musicians first and foremost, and the literary influence is just a well in which we draw from now and again.
Who was, I don't know, it's Grian who writes the lyrics mostly, I think, right? Mm-hmm. Was he ever, or were you ever, fans of the Smiths, of Morrissey in particular? Because there are many cases of literary bands in rock music.
Yeah,
the first reference that comes to mind. You mentioned Sonic Youth, of course.
Yeah. We're huge. We were huge Smith fans whenever we were starting out, and I mean, that music is amazing. Like the lyricism in that music is incredible, and the way that it kind of clings on to the beautiful music that they made as well was sort of a perfect match. And like, it definitely was an influence when we started. It seemed like, being able to sort of Graham being able to sing in maybe a more talkative style at the start, and being able to express things that were a lot more like prose that he was writing, instead of like, having the strict rhyming scheme of like a general song, was kind of a lot more attainable. It's a lot harder to try and write guitar like Johnny Marr, and it's something that I'm still trying to figure out to this day, but they definitely, they were an influence. I don't really know about Morrissey now. those early Smiths albums were really good, and they were an influence.
Yeah, as the guitar player, can you tell me how the songs composed? I mean, it's all you together, or is just how do you get to the composition part of the music? How did it happen this time in particular?
I suppose it kind of comes down to two different ways. It's either one of us will have an idea that has been, written, say 50%, the music and a couple of like a vocal melody, and we do like a demo and then bring it in and we'll learn it, and then we'll arrange, like all five of us will arrange the music together. And then the other way is that we just start from scratch in the rehearsal room, just start playing, and then slowly start figuring out bits that are good and bits that we want to keep, and then start, asking ourselves, what is this song? What is it trying to say? And then just sort of figure it out that way. So this album has a bit of both, and because we did it after we were separate for a while, we had a lot of ideas that we had been doing ourselves. So yeah, we started off with a lot of songs. I think it was maybe 32 songs to sort of get through, and then whittle that down. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, and then we were writing at the same time. And yeah, so I'd say it's almost 50-50, either an individual's idea arranged by the five of us, or the five of us starting an idea from scratch.
And of course, you always use the same producer, Dan Carey, from the first album. I know you tried to record the second album in Los Angeles. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
What went wrong? I mean, what was wrong with the LA recordings compared to what you did later with Dan Carey? What does he bring to your sound or your?
Yeah, I think a thing that we realized doing that, it wasn't down to any sort of proficiency or, you know, like how good of producer, like Nick Bonet is an amazing producer, you know what I mean? Like you can't deny that. Like his back catalogue says that, like, you know what I mean? Like he's incredible. The stuff he's done with Nick Cave and Grinder Man and stuff is really, really amazing. But I think what comes down to like a really good relationship between a band and a producer is when they can communicate and sort of develop a second hand in the way that they speak, and they start to know what they want out of things. And from working with Dan 3 times now, you know, that relationship has gotten deeper and has more depth to it every time, because we kind of know, I know, like if Dan is trying to get a certain sound, and just by the way that he's saying something, I can kind of click into that because I've worked with him a while, and the lads are the same. So I think the reason why we went with Dan again, and it's just down to communication. We seem to be able to all be going the same way a lot easier than maybe meeting someone new and trying to develop that communication again, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just become a very good working relationship in that way. We're also very good friends with him. So, you know, whenever I meet up with him, you know, we have all these like very good memories to chat about, you know? So it's really, really nice. And also he's just, the way, the risks that he takes on the whim, or like he'll have like a whiff of inspiration about something, and the way that he'll just go for that is just very it's very influential, you know what I mean? Like, and it's definitely has shaped the way that even if I was working on anything outside of the band, I've definitely taken influence on the studioship of him, like, you know.
Isn't there any producers that you like, that maybe you will want to work with in the future, around at the moment?
We just did a cover, a Nick Drake, you know, Nick Drake.
Yeah.
We did a cover of one of his songs for some compilation. It's not out yet, but we did it with Guy Garvey from Elbow.
Okay, yeah.
So he produced it, and
that
was cool.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was a producer as well. Okay.
Yeah. He's done a couple of things. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but we worked with him, and that was really cool. He's really like, he works in a completely different way, you know. But it was cool to see and to witness that. Yeah, I don't really know who are the producers.
Which song is that? But Nick Drake.
We did a cello song.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great song. Okay.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's a funny thing though. Like, it's whenever you work with someone different, like every producer has their sort of stamp. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
whenever I listen to that, just that thing that we did, even though it's just a cover, it's not one of our own songs. It has you can tell it has the stamp of Guy Garvey. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff that he's done with Elbow and like that kind of. So it's an insanely important thing though to have a good producer, and you know, for their stamp to be something that you're into and something that you want to, you know, that influences you, or that like turns you on, like, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's go back to your Irishness. I mean, it strikes a note certainly in England and in Ireland, in possibly in certain parts of Europe. Because you also went to the States, to other countries. Is it possible it gets lost? You know, the meaning. You know, the meaning of, you know, the lyrics, and you know what you try to convey. All the Irishness of the songs of Fontaines D.C. Do they get understood, for instance, in America? Are they understood the way you?
Yeah, I think I was very maybe not worried, but I was very curious whenever we did our first album if the themes of the album would cross over to other countries. But I think what we've found from writing through what we know as being Irish, and the things that come with that. You know, I've found from, you know, like people in South America, you know, that say listen to our there's a lot of universal truths, and it really does. If you think you're going through something in a country, there's probably someone going through something the exact same in a place that, you know, we don't share the same language. We couldn't communicate if we met on the street, but through the music, there's a lot of universal truths just in chatting about, you know, sadness and stuff that you're going through. So that's what I found, and that was very encouraging, because it does really make me think that, you know, across the world that we're all singing to the same tune. You know what I mean? Like, we all have the same feel. We all want the same things. You know. So the world seemed a lot smaller then, and it seemed like a lot nicer place. You know, like even when we went to Italy, like we played a gig in Parma.
Yeah, recently. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was so surprised that so many people, you know, came out and was chatting to them afterwards, and
people are dying to see English or Irish bands live at the moment. Yeah, your gig was one of the few ones in the last years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there were plenty of people, a lot of people. You coming back?
Yeah.
You're coming back.
We're coming back in March. We're playing Milan.
March, isn't that June or July? Maybe later, I think. No,
maybe. Yeah, I
maybe
thought
Milan.
there's
maybe
one
Milan before, and then you come back in the summer. I don't know. I saw 3 gigs.
Yeah.
Not Rome, though.
Yeah, we're doing a European tour in March, and I'm pretty sure there's one Italian show on that. So
yeah,
yeah.
No Rome. No Rome yet, unfortunately. Bad.
Yeah. I don't know what it is like. I don't know why we haven't gone to Italy more, to be honest. Like, because every time I'm there, I love it. You know, it feels like one of the big uninvestigated places of Europe for us. Like, you know, so I'm excited though. It leaves it all ahead of us. You know.
Yeah. You're coming this summer. Well, one interesting question. You know, I know that in Ireland there is a very effective ministry. I don't know how it's called, Ministry for the Arts or something, which sponsors a lot of tours and you know, gives money. I mean, subsidizes in a way Irish bands abroad. Yeah, how can you say that about something about that? How important is that? I mean, British bands have not got such support, for instance.
Yeah.
Italian bands.
Yeah, the support that we've got from that Irish I can't remember the name of them, which is awful. But
It's
yeah,
before the
they've been
art.
very good to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
No, no,
if
no,
you
no.
look it up and
I'll look
then
it up.
put it in and say and write that I knew what it was. No, they've been very supportive. Like the people involved with that have always been very kind to us, and you know, they got us over to they gave us the help whenever we wanted to go to South by Southwest in America.
Okay.
And that was a huge thing for us, because like obviously going to America is very, very expensive, especially for a band that I don't think, maybe we had just released our first album, but like, you know what I mean, like there's no money, you know,
Yeah.
around, like, you know what I mean, like, and even for a label, like, you know, it's hard to fund that kind of stuff, not knowing if we'd even cross over in America. So getting that help from the Irish government was really, really imperative, because once we went over there and we did South by Southwest and we played about 5 shows, then it was possible for us to be able to book a tour there, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Great opportunity.
yeah, they've always helped us out, and we are forever grateful for that, because Ireland as a country always boasts, you know, that it has great arts and it has a great love of music and stuff like that. And that talk is fine, but if there's no actual support coming from the government or coming from an association, then all of that is just trying to get tourism in, you know what I mean? Then it's just hot air. So fortunately for us, that's not the case, and Ireland does give a lot of support to their artists, and we're very, very, very grateful for that, because it got us to where we are now, you know.
Are your English friends in other bands like Idols or Shape envious of you because of this? Because they don't have anything like that.
Yeah, but like when you're from England, though, like you have the English press. You know, the English music press is the biggest press in the world. You know what I mean? Like it's one of the biggest tastemakers. Like if you even think about a lot of bands, like Sonic Youth, for example, they became big in England. You know, NME or like were such a big thing then, that once they became, you know, noticed by them, then they became big in America. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, although they may not have that sort of support, they also have probably the most respected music press in the world, you know?
You're a huge fan of Sonic Youth. I can tell. You're a huge fan.
They're a good example for a lot of things, you know?
Yeah. 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 So just okay, we have just a few minutes. Can I ask you, what was your favorite song on the album? What do you think is the best realized? I mean, according to following from what you set out to do before going to the studio, which song do you think came out really great in your opinion?
I think the song.
Difficult question.
Yeah, I think the song "I Love You" is a good. It was a really, like, we realized that song, we actualized it like really as well as we could. And if I'm thinking about where we came from, that song kind of really represents us in a way, because it is so it's a vivid dichotomy, you know what I mean? It kind of starts in this like nice way, it breaks.
Atmospheric, very atmospheric.
Yeah. Green has like this amazing vocal part where he's like shouting all these amazing lyrics that are very poignant and very pointed about something, and then it just slips back into a beautiful love song. And I always thought that sort of split, that dichotomy, represents us, you know what I mean? Like, we do like to write catchy songs, we do like to, you know, kind of stretch our songwriting in that way, but also we do like to lean into where we came from, which is like songs more like Too Real, which are like a lot more visceral and a lot more sort of, this is what it is in the vocals, and the guitars are like, yeah, just kind of or the music is just mirroring the emotion of it. Okay. So yeah, I'd say I Love You. And plus we played it 2 times now live, and every time we played it, I'm like, people get this, you know what I mean? People see this as us. So
yeah. Can you say something about the scene? The other bands in Dublin, which there's a very important scene at the moment. Can you point out some band to look for, or some band that you like particularly at the moment? Also, maybe not only Irish, maybe even English that you would like to. You'd like us
Yeah,
to.
there's a band. There's a band from Dundalk that we're taking on tour in Europe and in America called Just Mustard.
Just Mustard. Okay.
Yeah, and they come from Ireland, and they have such a definite, sound. It's very it's quite unique, and it's their own. It's kind of drawing from a lot of certain things, but the mixture of it is definitely their own. And they're a band that has excited me for years and years. I just think that they're sort of they're an outlier. They just stand on their own. They're not trying to follow any trend. They just are themselves, and that's what I always kind of look for in a band. You know what I mean? It's just individuality and originality as well. And I think they really do that while being an Irish band as well. So you'll see them on our tour anyway. If you see our show, and if anyone sees any shows in Europe, they're our support bands. So I'm going to say them.
Looking forward to. Okay, they're going to be the next FONTAINES D.C. maybe. You're going to be the next U2. Best band in the world. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Conor, for your time. Okay, this is going to be for Classic Rock Italy. It's going to be in the next issue, coming out the end of March. So,
cool. Nice one. Yeah. Well, will you send over a magazine?
Yeah. I'll ask the guys from the press. You get the girl who organized this to send it to. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I want to give all this kind of stuff to my mum. All these magazines and stuff. So when I'm old, I can remember when.
Okay.
So, it was nice to meet you. Hey.
Nice to meet you, Conor. Looking forward to meet you in person when you come to Italy.
Yeah, sound. Yeah. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Awesome.
As I said.
Yeah.